All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most dramatic and, well, intense prophecies in the entire Bible. And it's all packed into just a single verse, Revelation 19, verse 20. It's like a snapshot of cosmic justice, and we're going to break it down piece by piece.
And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. I mean, wow, the language is so incredibly vivid and absolute. Who is this beast? What on earth is a lake of fire? It immediately just sparks all these questions.
And yeah, that's really the big question here, isn't it? Are we talking about literal monsters and some kind of physical lake of burning sulfur? Or is this ancient text pointing to something much, much deeper? Let's find out.
Okay, so first things first, we got to figure out who we're even talking about here. The verse names two main culprits, the beast and the false prophet.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. According to the source material, we shouldn't be thinking about literal creatures here. The beast, that's Teutherion in the original Greek, isn't a monster. It actually represents a huge corrupt political and religious system. And the false prophet? Well, he's basically the PR department for that whole system.
So let's zoom in on this beast for a second. The source describes it as the ultimate antichrist power. Think of it as the complete embodiment of a worldly system that sets itself up in God's place, demanding worship and crushing anyone who refuses. It's the whole machine of control, all built on twisted, corrupted worship.
All right, so if these are symbolic figures, what was their crime? What did they actually do to deserve this? Well, it turns out the text gives us a pretty specific rundown of their whole scheme, this great deception. And here it is, their four-step playbook. It's actually pretty clear. First, the false prophet performs signs, misleading miracles to wow the crowds. Then, second, he uses those very signs to deceive people, to lead them down the wrong path. Third, he forces everyone to get a mark to show their allegiance. And finally, the whole thing culminates in demanding worship of an image, which locks in their loyalty to this corrupt system.
And this is a really crucial point. This mark isn't necessarily some physical tattoo or a microchip. According to the source, the charagma is all about allegiance. It's a symbol that you've totally bought into the system. Its values, its authority, its lies, everything. Completely turning your back on God's truth.
And you know what? This idea of a huge, powerful deception isn't just isolated to Revelation. The source actually points to a really similar warning in another book, 2 Thessalonians. It talks about lying wonders and a strong delusion. So it seems like this is a recurring theme, a pattern to watch out for.
All right, so we've covered the crime. Now let's get back to the climax of the verse, the final sentence. Because after all that deception, the judgment finally comes.
And the wording is just so stark. It doesn't say they were defeated in some long, drawn-out battle or that their influence slowly faded. No, it just says they were taken and they were cast.
And this is where one little word changes everything. They were cast in alive. The original Greek word here is zontes, and it's super specific. It's not just about, still breathing. It implies a sudden, conscious end. This isn't the system just slowly crumbling. It's a swift, final judgment where this whole corrupt system is fully aware of its own takedown.
And where do they end up? In the lake of fire. Now, the source is clear. This isn't just about punishment. It's the place of ultimate, final judgment. It symbolizes a complete and total separation from God, the utter destruction of evil. And that little detail, burning with brimstone? Yeah, that's just there to hammer home the absolute, irreversible finality of it all.
But, and this might be the most powerful point from the source material, this entire dramatic scene in Revelation 19, it's not actually the main event. It's really just the aftershock of a victory that had already been won.
And this timeline lays it out perfectly. The argument is that the real, decisive victory actually happened at Calvary, on the cross. That's when Jesus triumphed over all these powers. So when we get to Revelation 19, we're not watching the war itself. We're watching the final sentencing, the enforcement of a victory that was already in the bag.
Let me put it another way. This scene isn't about winning the war. The war was already won. This is about clearing the battlefield after the enemy's last hopeless stand. The fate of this corrupt system was sealed at the cross. This is just the public announcement of its defeat.
Okay, so after digging into all of that, let's pull back. What's the ultimate takeaway from this one single power-packed verse?
Well, first, symbolism is everything. The beast and the prophet aren't monsters. They represent corrupt systems and the people who speak for them. Second, deception has a playbook. It uses misleading signs and demands false loyalty. Third, the judgment on that kind of evil is shown to be absolute and final. But the biggest takeaway, this final judgment is really just the closing chapter of a story whose victory was already written at the cross.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If this ancient text is ultimately about the total, decisive victory of truth over huge, systemic deception, well, what does that make us think about the nature of truth and lies in our world today? It's definitely something worth considering.